It is Tuesday, the 21st of March, 2023, and this is episode 44 of All Back to Mine. This is the penultimate episode. There is only one more episode after this. So, yeah, it's getting quite interesting. So it should be quite another fun show. We had a great show with Barty Cuts on Sunday. But this time around, my very special guest is someone who's been into 45s a long time, is a big hip hop guy and also makes some amazing record boxes. We've got a lot to talk about, but without further ado, it is King Otto.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
And yeah, we might get a bit nerdy with the 45s, obviously, but it's it's what people like to hear. So I always start this show by asking guests to go right back to the beginning and when they first became aware of music and when music sort of came into their life. So was it sort of brothers, sisters, siblings? Was it parents, friends? Who was it who first sort of got the passion for music into you?
I think just from hearing the radio.
Okay.
My grandparents listened to classic country growing up. My parents listened to pop stuff. And then around when I was 10, my dad had given me a clock radio for Christmas, and I would just stay up late listening to different stations.
Okay.
And pretending in my head that the DJs were different cartoon characters, different like a fox or a hound dog or something like that.
Wow. Cool.
And from there, yeah, I just started just a minor obsession.
And so the music that you were listening to, you said you listened to different radio stations. So firstly, which stations were you listening to and what music were you hearing?
Well, back when I was 10 years old, that would have been 1979 or 1980. We lived in rural Wisconsin at that time, so I was
Right.
listening to stations that were coming out of Madison. It was just sort of your general pop, but back then it wasn't so separated by genre.
Okay.
So you'd have Blood, Sweat, and Tears and Steely Dan, but they might play a couple jazz songs and a couple country songs in the mix.
Okay. So that's quite the way a lot of 45 DJs play now, you know, in terms of sort of eclectic stuff and sort of going
Exactly,
on
yeah.
different genres. So it's amazing that even from that young age, that's what you're hearing. Do you think that had an influence later on your 45s sort of career?
Yeah, I believe so. And then getting into hip hop, and then once sampling started, and then trying to find those different samples and discovering different music along the way. That really bolstered it up.
Yeah, great. So the premise of the show, All Back to Mine, is if I was to come to your home, you'd say to me, right, Criztoz, I've got these 7 sevens that you must hear. And then I ask my guests to sort of play them. So without further ado, what is the first 7 you've chosen to play us and why?
Well, the first one I've chosen, as you know, I couldn't find.
Yes. You
So
search and
everyone
search.
else, I've just gone through a move. We've only been here about a month, and I had completely unpacked everything. Most everything is in crates by genre, but I've got a box down here that's about 3 feet long that's for stuff randomly, and I think it's in there somewhere. And I didn't think about it till the last minute, but that would have been Poetry by Boogie Down Productions. It's
Yes.
the original
Yeah.
B-Boy Records pressing, so it's not from the reissue box set that came out. It's got the Poetry Part 1 and Part 2, and it's one of my
Nice.
favorite rap songs to this day, and was also a big sample in that MF Doom song,
Yep.
the name of which I can't remember.
No, I know my
So
mind's gone blank. I know what you mean. Yeah.
wanted to play
That's the
that.
problem. That's the problem with having so many records in our head. You've heard something, but sometimes putting the name to the song
Right.
it becomes quite difficult.
And
But yeah,
I'm generally bad with names. Anyway,
yeah,
I can meet people 3 times, and I try to make a point of it sometimes, but I still get if I don't see them after a couple months, it's gone.
yeah. That's the way. So that would have been your number one. What is going to be effectively your number two?
I'm just gonna let's see. Actually, I don't want to start with that one. I want to start with. I'm gonna start with this one. It's
Oh,
just kind of a random thing. I'll play you a little bit of both sides. Or do you want to hear the entire song or just bits?
no, probably about a minute and a half, 2 minutes on each on
Okay,
one side, or you can play both sides if you want about the same
cool.
sort of time.
This is one from I believe it's Louisiana. It's called Country Funk by Big Bo Melvin and the Nighthawks.
Okay.
Just kind of a funny kind of boogie funky tune. My friend of mine in Louisiana found and was able to hook me up with a couple copies, and not a very expensive record or rare or anything, but kind of cool. And I don't think too many people know it.
Cool. Let's hear it.
Is that coming through?
Yeah, yeah.
So just kind of, I don't know, cheeseball disco a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's got this cool little breakdown.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, sample fodder. But yeah, there's a little drum break on the other side that's kind of cool. So let me play that for those people that enjoy that kind of thing. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds great. And I'm going to say hello to Tableless Lounge Vancouver, Kilo. He's the
My
one
man.
who linked us up, actually. He's the one who sort of said, you should reach out and get him on the show. So, yeah, here we are.
Here we are, man. Thank you.
Here we are. Yeah, that's a great record to start. And we'll sort of get into sort of sampling a little bit later. But yeah, that's a really good one to start. So, about 10, you're sort of listening to the radio and listening to all this music. When do you get to the stage where you're starting to buy your own records or buy your own music?
The first thing I can really think of is well, I bought cassettes.
Yeah.
So
Same here.
because I was at that age where that was the ease, the medium, and
Yeah.
just being a broke, 11-year-old. I bought, what was it at the time? Oh, I love rock and roll. So the Joan Jett album,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
Great.
then Freeze Frame was popular. Jay Giles band. So
Yeah.
I bought those two albums, and Walkmans had just come out, but my parents weren't about to spend the money on one of those, so we went to a secondhand store and got one of those flat tape decks that pop up
Right.
with
Yeah.
a speaker in the back. And then my dad got me some like giant headphones. So I was walking around my neighborhood playing these tapes and that thing, walking around thinking I was cool, but really looking like a dork.
Let me think, because I think I may. It's not quite where I thought it was. I've got one, not that old, but I've got one from like more recent years, so we could have showed what it was. But yeah, that's very different. So you're walking around with this sort of, it's got a handle on it and a cassette thing, and then the speaker at the
Right.
back, that sort of thing. Yeah. And was it like just a black one? Nothing sort of special or fancy like the sort of yellow Walkmans that they
Exactly.
then
Yep.
had? Yeah.
It was
Okay,
probably
cool.
like $3 or whatever at the whatever
Yeah.
store we went into.
But I guess it also got you into deciding what you wanted to listen to and when. Because I think that's a big part of being a DJ, isn't it? Sort of being able to choose what music you want to play. And I guess having that independence with your headphones, you could just do that, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say too, when I was in elementary school, we were able to bring records in and play them on. They had the little portable
Okay.
turntables, so I would bring in records to play for other kids, and I would get mad if they weren't paying attention to the parts I wanted to pay attention to.
What sort of age was that?
Like second, third grade, around then. I
Okay.
had
What day? Sorry, I'm being from the UK. I can never quite work out grades in
so
US. So
seventh. I would be
what would that be?
uh, so elementary school would be between 5 and 10 years old, or 6 and 11, depending on where you fell in the
Okay,
year.
cool.
So I
So
would have been
that's
around 7, 8 years old.
okay, cool. So at that age, you are taking in records that you want to play to the other
That either from
children.
my parents' collection or ones they had bought me.
Yeah, amazing. I had Barty Cuts on the show on Sunday, and he was saying that at his school, they encouraged them to get there. And obviously, if they weren't really into school, they encouraged them by saying, come in a bit early, bring a CD or bring something you want to play, and you can play it on the school system to then get them to school so that they then stayed for the education. So interesting how music as well at school for you from a young age.
Yeah, it's funny. I had such a small school too. We lived in rural Wisconsin at the time, and it was 15 to 20 kids in a class, and each class represented each grade basically. So there was 6 rooms in the whole place, and then the
Right.
gym.
Okay.
And we act the lunch room was actually the gym, so we go in there to get our food, and we can go back to the classroom and eat.
Okay. Okay. And what sort of records would you have been taking in at that age?
Uh, the two I can remember off the top of my head from back then, my mom had a stack of 50s and 60s pop stuff. Sunshine Superman by Donovan
Right.
was one,
Okay.
because it was Superman apparently to me.
Right.
Um, and then the one that was specifically mine was a Christmas record, and it was Snoopy versus the Red Baron.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember
And
bringing that one in, and that was the one that they weren't listening to the funny parts of the song and
okay.
getting frustrated.
Oh, amazing. That's an amazing memory. Wow. Yeah, that's a great memory. Okay, let's we'll try and get through some records as well. So let's have a record number 2. What have you gone for next and why?
Let's see. What should I go for next? I'm gonna play one of my favorite songs from the early years of hip hop, the early '80s. Not
Okay.
necessarily a rap song, but just one of the ones. I don't know if you would have heard it in New York, but it's a Miami record by Pretty Tony.
Right. Okay.
It's on the Music Specialist label. It's called Jam the Box, and kind of like freestyle, I suppose. And that kind of stuff was popular on the West Coast, where I eventually moved to Seattle. Is when I got into hip hop, and Ness would play this record.
That's a great
Yeah,
record.
yeah, I love
And
all the
that's
stuff they put out.
and when's that from? 80s.
What is it? 82 was what I want to say. There's no, there's no year on here. Yeah, it
That's
had to
so
be
annoying.
82, between 82, 84, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's so annoying when they don't put the year on a record.
Yeah, that bothers me.
yeah.
I want to write the date on
definitely.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's because you're holding a piece of history. I'll talk about this a little bit. You're talking about a piece of history. That record's been pressed at a certain date, certain time, in a certain place. So it should be a historical musical file. It should have the date on it.
Yeah, Yeah, full documentation.
Yeah, exactly. That we're getting proper nerdy for that. Okay, so obviously you're listening to your cassettes. When do you then sort of get to the stage where you're approaching sort of being a DJ? You know, do you end up sort of playing at other people's gigs? Are you collecting and then sort of playing, or do you
Well,
sort of
it
jump right into it?
it came about after I got interested in hip hop culture, uh,
Okay,
which I trace it back in my mind to a couple different uh, events. One of which was the we just talked about it. I think it was the Motown 25th year anniversary of
right.
Michael Jackson came out and did the moonwalk,
Yep, yep.
and I just remember the next morning, um, a friend of mine knew how to do it, so he was showing me how to do the moonwalk, and from then on, I feel like
Wow.
not long after that, I was started getting into breakdancing and popping. And it was the Ripley's Believe It or Not TV show did a segment on breakdancers in New York on top of a roof with a backdrop of graffiti. The whole thing was covered with graffiti, and that's what got me interested into hip hop. That's what put the idea of being a DJ into my mind.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's an amazing point in history, wasn't it? That Michael Jackson moonwalk. I think if you're of any age at that time, that's something that I think pretty much the entire world saw, and it was so like, wow, this is something's different now, and then everything did sort of change from that point onwards.
yeah, music. I mean, once hip hop came into the music in general, just took a big change. I mean, with the '80s and technology and all that, it was just that time for things like that to happen.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because it's 50 years now of hip hop, and it's such a big part of every type of music. I mean, the reason I love hip hop is just it's introduced me to so many other genres like reggae, funk, Latin, other sort of styles of hip hop, and it's just like an envelope that brings in all these styles from all over the world. I don't think there's quite another genre that does that in the same way because of the sampling element.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pan cultural in a way.
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, it's no surprise you sort of fell into that. Um, so obviously that's what makes you want to be a DJ. How did you go about then becoming a DJ?
Uh, well, I had a turntable. I had it was kind of a little all in one system with a turntable, a tape deck, and a tuner, and it had an aux switch.
Yep.
And I think if I remember correctly, I came home one day. Yeah, I knew what it was that they were doing. Scratching as far as scratching a record. I didn't know how
Yeah.
they were doing it, but I knew that they were scratching a record.
Okay.
And I had gone home and put on what's the song? No, I'm not going to think of it.
That's okay. So you put something on, yeah.
I put it on and scratched it. It
Okay.
was I want to say Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Like relax.
Yeah, relax, don't do it. Where he says "huh," I was
Yeah,
scratching the
yeah,
"huh,"
yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah, relax. Yeah.
and from then on, I believe what happened was I was in my backyard, and a couple kids came up that were from a different neighborhood down the street,
Yeah.
and they were just getting into breakdancing and hip hop stuff, and they had heard about me, so they went looking for me, and
Right.
we
Okay.
became friends. And over the course of that, they decided they want to rap. So I said, well, I've already scratched a record and I've already bought a few rap records. So why don't I just be the DJ? And
Cool.
that was pretty much the start of it. I got a pretty basic mixer for Christmas and a better turntable than I had asked for. And
Yeah.
so I was able to mix and learn how to do that.
And
Um,
it's I guess it comes back to it's great that you like you say you got that for Christmas because obviously your family could see that music was going to be important for you, and they allowed you to go and roll with it. That must be great as well.
they encouraged it because I was interested in it, but I think at least my dad was pretty sure that it was going to be a fad and I'd be done with it in a
Right.
month. But
Here we
here
are.
I am 35 years later, 36 years later.
Exactly. I've got a quick question. I'm going to say hello to a couple of people. Obviously, we said hello to Kilo. We got Chuck B and Moktak. Moktak's asked the question: is DJing easier than learning the moonwalk?
Is DJing easier than no?
I think you could. Yeah, there's a lot more to DJing.
Yeah. You learn a couple steps and a moonwalk, and boom.
Yeah,
I mean, I could
yeah,
still do it, but I can't do it as well as I used to because I'd probably break my toes if I tried to get up that high.
yeah.
But I can still
Uh,
scratch a record.
and Kilo's dad said the same thing.
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm assuming that goes back to the fact that it was going to be a fad, and it was going to be moved on. Okay, cool. Let's pause and then we'll carry on. Have you got another record? I know it's only normally 7, but I'm sure you've got a stack of records. I can see them behind you. So let's get through the 7 and see if we get some bonus ones in.
All right. Let's see. I wanted to play this one because this is just kind of a strange double-sider bootleg that's got this on one side. Eventually.
That's dope.
Yeah, a little Baltimore house music. And that's Diamond K, and Put Your Leg Up is the name of the song.
Yeah.
But on the other side, and I realize now the theme, but this is on the B side.
Music first. Grand Pooba, Milk D, a priority posse to my mom and my dad. Come on, yeah, come on, yeah, baby, come on, come on. Let's discuss this. Listen while I bust this. It's from the K, so hey, you can trust this. Rhyme ritual, rap my rap spiritual, pumping and jumping from the max to the minimum.
And that is Positive K with Step Up Front. So you got Positive K and Diamond K. I guess that's the theme.
The
It's a
K.
K record.
I mean, both sides are dope. And Barty at work says, "Hell yes, the Baltimore club, Baltimore club. I grew up hearing that on the radio in Maryland."
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could
Barty.
find more of that stuff on 45.
Yeah. And as Chuck B says, "Fire two sider." Yeah, and I like the contrast as well. You know, the sort of styles, and that's the sort of 45 you want to find, that you can play either side at
Right, yeah.
any sort of event. You know, any sort of gig you're playing, you've got that record. You've got 2 tracks. Because obviously, as a 45s DJ, you're limited by how many records you can take out physically. Obviously, things are different now with Twitch, where you've got all your records around you. But it's important to have those records that are double-sided, that you can just play in any situation.
Yeah, exactly. You could start off on one side and later on in the night end up playing the other side.
Yeah. Okay, so we got to the stage where you're the DJ. You've got your friends are going to do some rapping. So I guess you're in a hip hop band or a hip hop group at this stage.
For lack of a better term, yeah, that's what it was.
Okay. How did it go from there?
We just we were kids in high school, early high school, middle school. We would have parties, and I would basically take 2 stereos. So I'd bring my stereo over and then my other friend's stereo, and we'd hook it up, and then I would just play one song on one stereo and then hop over and play the next song. We did a couple things like that. which was pretty fun. But they kind of eventually got into doing freestyle bike stuff, which was also kind of interesting. I remembered this the other day. I'd forgotten about it. They somehow ended up being able to do a performance in it was a department store. I forget what the store was.
Right.
Something like a, like a J.C. Penney's or I don't know what the stores are where you guys are.
Okay.
But
yeah, maybe something like a Debenhams or something. So a department store.
yeah, so I ended
Yeah,
up bringing
yeah,
my
yeah.
turntables in and just spinning a little set while they rode their bikes around and did
Okay.
tricks.
Okay.
I'd
Oh,
forgotten about that. It's such a weird little off gig.
that's pretty cool though. But it's those sort of early gigs, isn't it? And experimenting and seeing what you can do, and
Yeah,
sort of being out there performing effectively to people. It's a great skill to have sort of taken you through to where you are now.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I'd forgotten all about that one, and that was still, I was still in high school, I think, at that point too.
Yeah. Okay. So they get more into the biking. I'm assuming you don't, because you carry on with the sort of record collecting and DJing side of
I
things.
was getting more into rap. Yeah,
Yeah.
later on ended up. We had a friendly rivalry. Basically, it
Okay.
was a kid in a different high school that was also DJing and doing hip hop stuff. Well, his friends were talking shit about me, or saying that I was talking shit about him, and my friends were saying that he was talking shit. And
Right.
neither of us really knew anything about each other. So
Okay.
um, they had arranged this battle, and we were meeting in somebody's basement to set up our equipment and just kind of go back and forth. And I went and set up in this dude's basement, and he never showed up.
Right.
And we eventually met, and he became a pretty good friend of mine. He's still doing his thing in Everett, Washington. His name is DJ Nanaimo now, I believe. But
Right.
yeah, he's super good scratching. And that was sort of led me to meet a friend of his whose name was E Sharp. And his dad was actually the mayor of Everett, Washington at the time. And I met him at this guy Nathan's house, and we became friends. And I'm like, hey, I was about to go downtown Seattle and do some record shopping. You want to go with me? And he came along, and we ended up hitting up a few different spots and talking about rap. And
Cool.
he was already into production, so he had a keyboard, and together we bought a 4-track, and I bought a drum machine to trigger the keyboard. And I started
Okay.
getting into
Cool.
making music right around that time. And I had also borrowed another Roland drum machine from somebody, and I had a little the little Casio SK1, I think it was.
Yeah.
And did like little half bar samples and tried to make beats.
Okay. Cool.
But by the time I met E, then we started digging for samples, and then really starting to adding to my record collection, because I had to buy all the rap stuff that I could find that was coming
Yeah.
out, and then now I got to find the samples.
Okay. Amazing. Kilo's saying Eric. Is that one of the people you were talking about?
Yeah, that's E. Yep, Eric.
Okay, I see. Okay, cool. And yeah, Mocktack says it sounds like it was awesome times. It does sound awesome. Because this, I mean, obviously, I think again at this sort of time in the world, we sort of take for granted sampling and the internet, and who sampled who and all that sort of stuff. That didn't exist back then, did it? So you're going to have to go and find out what the samples are, and then find them physically to sort of be able to use them, aren't you?
Right. And then, half the time you didn't know what you're buying, because not every record store is going to have a PlayStation or a
listening
station. So yeah, taking a lot of chances. And he was particularly good at picking out good records. And I remember he found a Credible Bongo Band in the 29-cent bin at one of these stores, just because it had a mark on the sleeve.
Okay.
He had a gift for that kind of thing. He could look at a record and take it home, and there'd be a Beastie Boys sample on it or something. I'm still trying to find some of the stuff he played.
I guess that's amazing, isn't it? Because the difference now is you can put who sampled who, go onto the website, you put it in, and
Right.
But when you first hear a record and then you're not expecting it, and then you suddenly hear a sample that from a hip hop tune, your brain is just like, what? Where's that come from? It's an amazing eureka moment, isn't it? You suddenly hear it and you're like, rewind, let's hear that again. So yeah, it's different times, wasn't it? Different times.
Yeah, it was fun because you're just you're learning all this stuff and trying to, you have to figure it out on your own, or know
Yeah,
people that know things, and
definitely.
a lot of trial and error.
And so then, is it the fact that you're into rap and hip hop and hearing obviously all these records being sampled that makes you then want to then start producing and sampling stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Once I understood what it was I was hearing, um, then yeah, I wanted to start creating that kind of thing. And
And I mean,
um,
did you know how? Again, now we've got the internet. You want to say, how do you want to make a beat? You put a video on YouTube and you get it. But back then, how did you learn how to sample and what to use in terms of equipment?
um, you just use the equipment. I mean, you can read you read the instructions, and it tells you what it is you need to do to sample, and then from there you just figure out how do you get the loop tight. So you either
Right.
slow the sample down or you change the tempo to make it match, and then add things to it, and hopefully it sounds good. If it doesn't, you try another sample.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just playing around with it and learning how to use the machines. It gives you the ideas to what it is you want to try and accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I've recently bought an SP404 Mark II, so I've been doing some sampling.
Nice.
I don't really know how to use it yet. I'm still learning, but it's a lot more fun than being on a computer or sort of being on Ableton or something like that. So hopefully we'll get some beat going at some point. But anyway, another record. I think I always lose track on these shows. I think it's number 3. I think it's number 3, isn't it?
I have played 3. This would be number 4.
Oh, you played 3? Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I always lose count. So, what are you playing for number 4, and why have you chosen it?
I am choosing this record because going back to I want to say it was a Spin magazine. I used to go down to the U District. My mom worked early in the city, and I was able to go down and hang out, and I'd ride my skateboard and go to record stores once they opened. But before that, I would hang out at the magazine shop and read New Music Express and
Okay.
Right On and Spin magazine and all that. But I bought one that had an article about, I think it both had an article about house music back in 1980, like 1986, and a story about go-go.
Okay.
And I believe the movie Good to Go-Go had just come out. So they talked about some of the artists in that movie, and I got into go-go music a little bit, and that's something that once I got into collecting 45s, I really tried to get out and try to find as many of the go-go records as I could, and I found this one that I thought was pretty cool. It's I don't know if you can see the cover if I hold it up close enough.
I can solo you out. Hold on a second.
A couple guys with a boombox, but they're like a punk band. But on the B side of one of their records is this go-go song.
You just hold it up again. That'd be cool. While you hold it up while you're playing it, it's cool.
Am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on.
Okay, my screen changed. I don't see you anymore. Oh, there we
go.
Oh,
I've just soloed you so you could show the record sleeve.
Oh. Sorry, I'm tripping. I wasn't looking up.
That's right. Okay.
One more. There you go.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah, that's a cool sleeve. Yeah.
So I don't know. Go-go's not necessarily a popular thing. It's pretty regional as far as I know. Obviously the Butt was a big hit, and now I can't think of his name. Bustin' Loose, that song was a big hit. But go-go really never reached too much of a mainstream thing. And I hope someday to actually go to a go-go show and see it live. But I just wanted to play this record because I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on the right speed.
Chuck Brown, we're being told.
That's it. I draw a blank. When I need the information, it never comes to me. Love the drums. Trying to get some vocals.
It's a proper live party happening, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But they eventually go on to do kind of a chant thing and DC Groove, but that is the Static Disruptors, and DC Groove is the name of the song.
That's a great record, and it's again we're talking about a bit of history, and obviously a record being a bit of history. That recording is a bit of history because it sounds like you're at a party and this is like a live thing. That's not a live track though, is it? Is it a live track?
No. It doesn't say live anyway. I mean,
they've managed to make it sound really live, and it takes you right to that party.
Right. Yeah, that's the great thing about Go-Go, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more. I think I'm gonna do some Go-Go research after the show. Cool. Okay, so we got to the point you're DJing, you're doing some scratching. When does it sort of then become like all-encompassing, the hip hop? You know, when is it that you're living and breathing hip hop?
Oh, that was like 6 months after I learned about it.
Okay.
That was 1984. That was before I even really called myself a DJ. I was
right.
I was doing graffiti because I was already doing art when I was a kid. So cartoons and stuff like that. So I started doing graffiti. I was doing breakdancing, and then got into the records, and then the production came around.
Did you ever get into the MC or rap side of things?
Yeah, that was around. So after I met E, and we started, he showed me what he knew, and we bounced ideas off each other, and we eventually got an apartment together and had a little studio set up, and kept learning samples and whatnot, and then I started making beats, and I don't know how I hooked up with this one fellow, but he paid for a couple of my beats.
Cool.
And paid to go in the studio and record them.
Right. Okay.
So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Let's see if I can do more of this. And I just started making more and more, and really getting into the production side of things. And it was around that time that how did this work? We met a guy named Bob D, who was a local rapper. I met him through someone I worked with,
right,
who said, "Oh, I've got this friend that raps. Maybe you want to hook up with him." So we hooked up with this cat, and he worked at Boeing outside of Seattle, Washington. And he had a friend that would go up to Vancouver on the weekends, and he was in a rap group up there. Well, they had gotten into a studio that gave them a chance and signed them as a label, or to their label. They created a label just for this group. And they needed a DJ for a couple shows they had coming up. One was opening for Sir Mix-a-Lot, and the other one was opening for Public Enemy.
Awesome.
And they had asked E if he wanted to do it, and he said no. But ask my homie at the time. My name was Chris Crash. Ask Crash.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to do it. So went up to Vancouver. I'd never been out of the country before. I take that back. I had gone skiing up there before, but I hadn't been out of the country on my own.
Right. Okay.
Met up with E, who lived on, in the stateside, and he took me up, and we met Quaze, who was the other rapper, and spent the night. The next day, we just sort of practiced together and did a show. Went off pretty well. So I ended up doing the Public Enemy show with them.
Wow.
So the second time I DJ'd in public on any kind of level was for a sold out show of 5,000 people at the Orpheum in Vancouver.
That's insane.
It was crazy.
I
And
mean, what was going through your head when you got up onto that stage to DJ for the second time only to all those people? What was happening through you?
pretty nervous.
Yeah,
My hands were probably shaking,
yeah,
but they were loving it. And even though I'm not saying I did a bad job, but it was difficult because they had dancers and the stage would bounce up and down and the needles would bounce up and down with that.
yeah.
So I hadn't yet learned how to secure everything. I don't even know if I could have at that time.
Right.
And so that was frustrating because back then I would do a little routine too and cut up 2 copies of Bounce Rock Skate Roll.
Oh,
And I'd
excellent
have
record. Yeah.
my little 5-minute DJ segment. But it would skip a lot, so that was really frustrating. But the crowd loved it. I still have the poster from that day with their autographs on it.
And what are you playing 12s or are you playing 45s at that time?
12 inches.
12s. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't quite. This is years before I got into
Yeah, I
collecting
was going to say.
45s. I had 45s just because, if you have any kind of records back then, you're going to have a 45.
Yeah,
You know, you go to the
definitely.
drugstore and they were for sale on the counter for $2 a piece. You
Yeah.
could buy all the pop hits.
It is amazing, isn't it? Because I was thinking about this the other day. We had a shop called Woolworths and
Yeah,
our
we have
price
Woolworths.
and these records. Yeah, so and you could go into that and buy whatever was the 7-inch record of the stuff in the charts
Yeah.
here. And it's just amazing to sort of think back to that time that everything was released on 7-inch record,
Yeah,
7-inch
so
vinyl. Yeah, yeah, very very different times.
a
Very-
painful thing that I think about is the Tower Records on the Ave in Seattle. I used to go to a lot to buy
right.
12 inches. Well,
Yeah.
when you first walked in, that whole right side for the first 10 to 15 feet was all 45s. And I remember
Yeah.
seeing Def Jam labels and different things that I'm like, not interested. But I
Yeah.
wish so much that I'd gone through there and picked up some of the things, had
So
the
you
foresight.
need a time machine like Back to the Future to go back to
Yeah,
that point and tell yourself from there, buy all these records now.
exactly.
You'll do it later. But imagine if you had, that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
And they wouldn't be the sort of price they are now to try and get them.
yeah, exactly. That too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Luckily, I bought a lot of them before that little price hike, but still,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's still going. It's still going, isn't it? 45s are still creeping up and creeping up and creeping up all the time. It's crazy. New 45s as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I get that everything's going up in price, but they seem to have taken a massive jump in the last sort of 2 to 3 years. It's
Yeah,
it's
especially
crazy.
the Japanese pressings.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they were, for example, on Juno, they used to be say maybe 17.99 or something UK, and then now they're suddenly getting close to 30.
Yeah, I think
It's
I
a
paid
it's
40
a huge
for
jump. Yeah, it's a
the
lot.
internet. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Right. Let's have another record. I think number 5.
Record number
Hold on. We have one more
5.
question. Sorry, one more question before we do this. Mogtak is saying, is it easy to decide how many records to bring for a gig? For me, I guess it depends on how long the gig is. And you always take probably 3 times as many records as you think you need.
Right. For reference, I in my head I know how many hours I can play.
Okay.
If I bring, say, the box that's sitting right here, if all I play is these
Cool.
records from end to end, that's going to take me to about 3.5 to 3 hours and 45 minutes, maybe 4 hours depending on the records.
Okay. Okay.
So if I'm just playing an hour, I would bring that box.
Yep.
Or if I'm playing 2 hours, I would bring that box. For anything more than that, I used to do a weekly that it was a 4-hour gig, and I would play 45s for the whole thing, and I would bring my Rich Medina bag, which was roughly 8 hours of music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe
It's nice.
even more.
Yeah.
But that way, also next week, I could bring that same bag and not have to worry about playing all the same records.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Thank you. That. But yeah, do you want to play the next record while we get rid of this bot?
Also, I would say it depends on how you play records too, because some people play the whole song, some people only play parts of songs and move on. So it depends on how you mix.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an early rap record from Buffalo, New York. And I had gotten this from Bob Abraham,
Thank you, Motto.
the infamous Bob Abraham out of Chicago, just before he passed away. Rest in peace, Bob. And thank you for hooking me up with this.
Throw down. Throw down. Huh. Now listen, all you rappers and Roxanne too. You see, I'm very tired of what you do. Check it out. So pick up a pencil and paper and check out these lines, because we are here to rock your mind. I say rock the box, I say you don't stop. I say everybody get up and rock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam, what the hell you waiting for? Huh. Good God. Rock, rock, you don't stop. Roxanne, Roxanne, your stuff is through. I got something I want to say to you. You talk about my lady, you call her a dog. But let me tell you, bitch, you ain't so hot yourself at all. You talk about somebody wanting your body.
Not great, but kind of a cool song.
Yeah, it's cool.
If I understand, I think this guy was a radio jock
Right.
that released a record, but the other side is more like a ballad. And I don't know if you heard it, but he's calling out Roxanne. So technically, this is part of the Roxanne saga.
Right. Okay.
For those who may or may not know,
Yeah.
what I'm referring to is a song called Roxanne, Roxanne by UTFO, which was followed up by The Real Roxanne talking bad about UTFO, and then Roxanne Shante.
Yeah.
And then there was probably a couple dozen Roxanne answer records after that. And this, I guess, qualifies as one.
It's crazy in music. And again, do you think that's something that happens mostly in rap and hip hop? You know, do you think sort of rock bands call each other out? I don't think they do.
Yes.
So much,
It's not as a normal practice, but you know, hip hop and it just is it's competitive, so you're going to get things like that. But like, what's the song? Is it Sweet Home Alabama? And they make a reference to, I think, something Bob Dylan said in that song.
right,
but I don't know that Bob Dylan ever came back with with his Alabama diss, but
with his own record to count. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I guess it's probably just sort of hip hop largely. Okay, cool. Now we obviously on a show about 45s. When was it that 45s first, got into your psyche and they became a bit of an addiction and you had to start collecting them? When was it that you realized that was going to happen?
I would say, as far as it's like I said, it's always buying 45s. There's not like just a time when I focused on them was after, and been probably for a lot of people after the Brain Freeze.
Yeah.
The DJ Shadow and Cut Chemist.
Yeah.
And that's when it wasn't too long after that I moved to Minneapolis with the idea that I was going to be able to find a bunch of funk stuff in the in random bins, just because I was in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't really the case, but I was finding things that I would be normally playing at a gig.
Okay.
And it was right around the time that Serato came out. So now I'm getting all the songs I need from the DJ pools. They're emailing them to me.
Right.
I don't have to buy the extra stuff because I can get them digitally somehow.
Sure. Yeah. So you're getting them digitally rather than going out and having to buy them.
Yeah. So now I don't have to spend money on that. I can spend money on things I want to buy and collect. So
that's cool.
I'm like, let me start buying some of these records. It'd be cool to someday just go out and play an all 45 gig. I won't have to carry a ton of records around. I could just do this. And as I'm going through the records of one of my local stores out in Minneapolis, I found LL Cool J to the Break of Dawn, and it
Yeah.
was the album version with the instrumental on the B side. And there's different versions of the 12-inch, which I didn't know, but the 12-inch that I had didn't have the instrumental on the B side. So I
Okay.
was like, wow, okay, what other kind of Rap 45s are there out there?
Yeah.
And I went through everything in the store and found some other cool stuff, and then started looking on eBay and whatnot and finding things. And then one day I had gone past the new 45 section at the
Right.
same store.
Yeah.
And one day I realized, I started looking at them like, this is all dead stock stuff from the 90s.
Okay.
So I spent the entire afternoon going through that entire section and found a bunch of Biggie 45s and Soul Food
Wow.
45s and Robin S. and I can't even remember what else off the top, but just so much stuff. They were
Yeah.
all $3 a piece.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I had talked to the guy that ordered the records there. I'm like, do you have any like cold chillin' stuff or anything like that? He's like, if you had asked me a couple years ago, I could have ordered anything from any of these labels and gotten it. But now they've
Wow.
all gotten rid of them, or they've become too popular and they're selling for too much. So
That's crazy. And what year? What year are we talking about?
that would have been probably 2000 when that particular thing happened. It was 2008, 2009. But by then I had already played my first all 45 gig, probably in 2006. At a
How was that? How was sort of doing that first 45s gig?
it was difficult. I mean, as you may know, playing with 45s is going to be a lot different from playing with 12 inches. They're a lot
Yeah.
touchier. One problem I used to have was I'd have the needle too heavy,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it would continue. The table would spin, but the record would stop just because of too much friction in the groove.
Yeah.
So I finally learned how to adjust the weight, and I haven't had that problem forever. But that was really annoying at first, and just skipping and just trying to figure out how to touch them without making everything skip or go fuzzy right away.
And I guess at that stage, obviously one of the important things, I don't know if your 45s at that stage were dinked, but obviously now we've got all these adapters and we've got certain slip mats that help. A lot of that wasn't around then. So what were you using in terms of sort of adapters? Were you using 12-inch and then slip mats? Were you using 12-inch slip mats or?
Yeah, 12-inch slip mats and probably the stock 45 adapters.
The sort
Or
of
even,
what the technical one.
I think eventually I tried to get one of the little yellow 45 adapters into every single one of my 45s, and that just became
Right.
inefficient.
Yeah.
But eventually,
Yeah.
I got some heavier 45 adapters, and I had made these. And if Kilo's still out there, he might
Hold
remember
on, let
this.
me try and get you sync
Kilo gave
soloed
me
out.
these slip mats.
Oh wow.
They're Bacardi slip mats.
Yeah.
And I cut them into 7 inches and cut the hole in the middle. And because they're so thick on this side, they grip the 12-inch slip mat. So I started using that and much heavier 45 adapters, and it works a lot better.
Yeah. And I guess the technology sort of progressed as well. And I guess same with mixers. Obviously, is that an S9, S7 you've got there as well?
Yeah, I got the S9 here. I just recently bought a Rev 7 to do my regular gig, so happy to have this at the house and not have to break it down every time I leave.
Yeah. Hello to a couple more people. We've got Socko Native I haven't said hello to, and obviously Malong from Panama. So yeah, great to see you. Okay, let's have another record. What have you got next? This might be number 7. I think, like I say, I always lose count, but I think this might be number 7.
I set exactly 7 aside, so this should be 6.
6.
But
okay,
I did play 2 sides of a couple things.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Sorry if I cheated.
We got a bit of time, so yeah, we can hear some more records.
All right, this one I want to play just because I think it's cool, and it's been trying to find more of this kind of stuff. I guess it'd be considered I've heard it called no wave, like post-punk, that kind of like pre-house past disco punk kind of stuff. early 80s New York sound, but this is actually a Scottish band.
Big as dogs, but you make no sound. You got your eyes looking round. Nothing to say, no way to sit. Just about crazy of it and the
Yeah.
That's a
Drums,
great
bass line.
record.
Yeah,
That's
I've
a
been
great record.
kind of stuff lately. It's just I don't know, sounds like that sort of early New York, early 80s scene, kind of
Yeah, yeah.
pre-rap stuff.
Let's have a quick look. I think that's got a picture sleeve as well, has it?
Yeah, Emily took it out of there.
Let's have a quick look at that. That's a great picture sleeve. That's cool. I mean, that's part of the appeal as well for 45s if you get a picture sleeve, because they're normally pretty cool, and it's just a nice size, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I really I enjoy getting the picture sleeve if I can.
Yeah. It's we didn't quite in the UK we had quite a lot of picture sleeves, but the European versions had much different and better picture sleeves for some reason. I don't know why that is. But yeah, okay. Let's talk about a couple of other things then. In addition to playing 45s and DJing 45s, you then moved on to sort of making record boxes, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
What was the year? Well, I had a gig. My homie was on tour. Homie from Seattle was on tour, and he was playing in Chicago, and I was able to get myself on the bill opening for him. And I was going to play 45s, and I made myself a box, and it was yay big by yay big, and I could fit I don't know how many hundreds of records in this thing.
Right.
And I'm walking around with it, and I played the gig, and I'm like, I didn't play a quarter of these records. Like, this is
Yep.
ridiculous. So I made myself a smaller version, much like the size that I have sitting here.
Yeah.
And
How many does that one fit?
this one fits 3.5 hours, so roughly 75, depending on how you
Okay.
have them packaged.
Yeah.
And I made one, and I showed it on the internet, and someone said, "Hey, is that for sale?" And I said, "Yes, it's for sale."
Okay.
And a little bing light went off, and I just started making more, and then I started thinking, how can I make a Louis Vuitton box?
Yeah.
And just did a bunch of research and figured out I went into a bunch of Louis Vuitton stores and Gucci stores to try to see what it is that they do and try to replicate it, and was able to find parts that look pretty close,
Okay.
and started
Cool.
making designer boxes. And yeah, it's led me to some weird places, but
I'm sure
I've
we've got
made
a few. Yeah, go on.
I'm close to 230 something that I've made so far, and I think I started about 10 years ago, 2013.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's have a look at. We got a little video here that we can see some.
That's one of the first ones. That's the first double wide I think I ever made.
Yeah, I like the look of that one. That's nice.
That one was for Clinton Street Records. Those right there, my homie Dave Mata in Chicago. I forget who bought that one.
I like this one. This one's nice.
Thank you.
Well, they're all nice. They're all great, but I like the colorway and this one as well. I really like the colors on this one.
Thank you. Yeah, that one's still for sale. I'm surprised that one didn't scoop yet. It's all leather patchwork. It took me forever to make that thing.
Yeah, I was reading the Instagram post about that one, and yeah, I mean, how long would that one take? You know, how many hours are we?
That one because I had to cut the leather to fit, and then I'm
Yeah.
using cement, rubber cement. So you know you have to put it on and then let it rest for 10 minutes before you can adhere it. That one took me like a week to make, pretty much working
Yeah.
maybe 3 hours a day on it. But most of the time, all time compressed together, maybe 6 to 8 hours on each box.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then it's the materials and putting it all together and everything else, isn't it? And the
Yeah,
ideas
you
and
got to let things dry. And
yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, they look amazing, and like you say, you know, they're probably
thank you.
perfect for a sort of 3 to 4 hour set, aren't they? And yeah, depending how you play. But yeah, so you say they've sort of led you into a strange direction. So you know, anywhere in particular, sort of a story that it led you into?
Oh well, just just being able to talk to Diamond D,
Yeah,
Jazzy Jeff. I've made it
yeah,
from
yeah,
scratch. You know, now these people are in my realm, or
in
however
your
you want to
community.
say it.
Yeah, yeah,
If I, say something to them, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, word." They might respond. Whereas you talk to your heroes sometime on the internet, and they don't give a shit.
yeah.
Um, so that's kind of fun to be able to just have a
To
connection with
connect
people
on
like
that.
that,
Yeah.
and it's something that they show off that they have. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I did
definitely.
talk to Rick Ross once for
Okay.
like 30 seconds. I'd mostly talk to his boy, but his boy put him on the phone once, so that was kind of strange.
Right.
Um, I sold one to the most intricate one I've done. I sold to Wax Poetics magazine
Yeah.
for a what am I trying to say? It was an auction, hip hop memorabilia auction, and they sold the entire run of Wax Poetics magazines with all the promo records and stickers.
Wow.
And they asked me to build a box for it, and that sold on Sotheby's for close to $8,000
Wow.
for the
It's
whole
amazing.
collection. Yeah, honored to
That's
be a part of that,
amazing.
man. That was
Yeah.
they sat it wrong, and the way they sat it showed the number, the tag on the bottom with my tag on it.
Right. Okay.
So honored that my tag and something I created was amongst all this hip hop
Hip
memorabilia,
hop
from
memory.
all the
Wow.
flyers and jackets and different things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
really honored to have something
That's
and
amazing. And I guess
represented the.
it's you know, something like that is a work of art, isn't it? It's more than just, you know, just a box, you know, and it's a piece of
Right,
history
yeah,
again, isn't it? You know, you've created something specifically for this purpose. That is a unique item that you're never going to make again, and you know, has that history,
right.
which makes it even more interesting.
And especially for the Wax Poetics box, it's not something that's you're not going to carry it around. It's just
No.
I made it so it would sit on a shelf and display on a shelf.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just something that people can look at and that looks great. So, yeah, cool. So that, yeah, it's interesting, like you say, you know what, because the scene is quite small, isn't it? You know, we think DJing is a big thing, but it's actually quite a small scene, and especially when you sort of niche it down to 45s and people who collect 45s, it feels big to us because we're sort of living and breathing it all the time. But it is quite a small thing, so it's great to be able to connect with the sort of top level heroes, like you say, of the scene.
Right. Yeah, it's been great. I got me on with the Vinyl Destination tour too when Jazzy Jeff and those guys came through town.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was so honored to meet Jazzy Jeff. He's been one of my first big DJ heroes. So yeah,
And
just opened a lot of
what
doors.
what's he like?
Jeff, he's a nice guy. He's super nice. I didn't get to hang out with him that much, but I mean, just being
Yeah,
able to see, you watch him online. He's a very genuine dude, and he's very supportive of up-and-coming DJs, and
yeah.
he puts a lot into the culture. So
And
yeah,
I
really
think
good
that's
dude.
one of the things, you know, we were saying earlier that, you know, you haven't really streamed for probably about a year or so, and I don't think you've done a huge amount on Twitch yet. You're talking about maybe getting into it further down the line. But I think for me, it's amazing that we've had Twitch and streaming and been able to watch these amazing DJs from their studios or from their homes or from their whatever, and sort of get to know them and like you say, connect. And for us, it's, you know, being on the same raid trains or whatever as, you know, some of these amazing
All right,
DJs.
yeah,
It's been a great sort of leveler, certainly in the DJ culture of everyone. Because before, it'd be very difficult to speak or for these people to even know who you are. But obviously now you're in the 45 scene, it sort of grows. So it's been really interesting the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch. I was part of a couple things early on, but especially last year or so, excuse me, haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to Twitch. But as you know, I just recently moved. And before that, I moved a year ago. I moved down to Tucson from Minneapolis, and everything's just been sort of in limbo. Since the pandemic, and it would have been anyway because we own a small building in Minneapolis, so we were moving into a different unit to remodel it before we moved down here. So everything has just been in a weird state for the past 3 years or more. So really looking forward to getting settled again, setting this place up so I can go on Twitch regularly and try to be part of that community. And being able to, I want to start getting back into production and get some remixes out between me and my homie Bean in Seattle. He's got a lot of great remixes that I think would go great on a 45. So hopefully start pressing some stuff up too.
So 45's label. 45's label coming. Very exciting.
Yeah, we've got it planned. It's just been the idea started right before my life went upside down. So
yeah, it's yeah, life does that sometimes. But yeah, like you say, now hopefully be settled and then get into the Twitch and then the beat production and all the rest of it, and it'll all just grow. Right. I'm going to say hello to DJ Andy Smith, who's just come into the chat. But yeah, what have you got? This is number 7. We will get another couple of bonus, but what have you got for number 7?
For number 7, I'm going to play this. It's a, I guess I call it a regional rap record out of Louisiana. Shout out to the homie Tariq Thornton, who is someone that I think you would appreciate having on this show and knowing about.
Cool.
Not as known, but definitely very serious record digger. And he found this record in Louisiana sitting on a stack of records out in the country. He went out to go buy some records that some lady had in a box. And there's so much great music in Louisiana, and he's got such a crazy collection of just stuff or at least I've never heard before.
I'm
always
sure,
playing crazy records, but he put me onto this one. I was eventually able to find one off eBay. I like to collect the early like disco rap record kind of sound.
Yeah.
Trying to get as much of that as I can too, because I have a problem. But this is Super Jam. It's spelled Jamn by Deacon Jones. And I'm going to play the other side because it sounds better.
Everybody talks about the East Coast party's hard and the West Coast party's hard, but I know the real truth and nothing but the truth. And that's that the folks down south are partying hard. Hey, they're getting up and shaking their donkeys like they just don't care. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you a chance to shake your underwear too. So no matter where you are, get ready to jam. To everyone out there, to every single square, I wanna see you rock, don't wanna see you stop. Feel the music quaking, see your booty shaking. Just a bunch of freaks jump into the beat. I'm your record player, your body swear. Gonna give you a chance to get out of your chair. Just clap your hands and stomp your feet. I just wanna see you shake your meat. Just rock your body from side to side. I dig the rock freaks dancing in the night. If you don't have a bell to ring, don't let that keep you from doing your thing. And say soft shoe, Scooby-Doo. Deek's gonna make a freak out of you. This Deacon speaking, I ain't no fool. I'm a summa cum laude from cool.
That's awesome. What year is that from? Has that got the year on it? Oh, your mic seems to have gone. Can you still hear me? I can't hear your mic.
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry.
Ah, there you go. There you
go. What did you say?
What year was that? Did you manage to find a year on the label?
I'm thinking 81, 82.
Yeah.
There's no year on it.
But yeah, I mean that's great though. That's really great. And Mark Tack says almost all DJs, because I have a problem. Yeah, I think it's an addiction. It's definitely an addiction, but I think it's a positive addiction. rather than a problem, because I think a problem would cause you difficulties, but it's a positive addiction. Certainly what, for me, how it's led me to other DJs and other people and other sort of music lovers has been a real positive thing that's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously joining the dots and meeting other people like you, it's been great.
Yeah, exactly. Meeting and talking to people all around the world, and
Yeah,
that's the internet for you.
it is. Socko Nate says that Discog says that's a $500 record.
Might be.
Yeah. I'm sure it's pretty rare. But yeah. Okay. Before the show, I asked you, if there was anything particular you wanted to talk about, and we discussed that an area might be interesting to talk about. I know we're on Twitch, but Mixcloud, because that is another area that DJs sort of find themselves on. What did you want to say about it? What was your experience of Mixcloud recently?
Mike's just a recent experience, and especially since I just hosted a mix for the 45 day.
Yeah.
And I had a billing problem because they recently went, if you wanted to have more than 10 mixes up, you had to pay $15 a month.
That's right. Yeah.
And at first I'm like, and I'm like, okay, I've got 70 mixes up here. I want to put up more.
Yeah.
I've been doing the radio show, so I've been trying to post those mixes as often as I can. So I did it. I bit the bullet and started paying the $15. Well, I had some kind of billing problem. I still don't know what happened because the money was there. It just was on hold. And once I let it slip my mind and didn't pay it, they bumped me back down to basic and got rid of 12 years worth of mixes and listens and additions to people's favorites and comments and all that. And I was more sad than anything else, because there's several mixes up there that I don't even have a copy of anymore, because I'm
exactly.
Like, it's on the internet, it's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Especially my Christmas mixes, which I myself, I make them for myself. I put them on for other people to listen to if they like them, but I mostly make them for me, and I listen to them all repeatedly every December. I'm sure my wife gets tired of it, but I want to listen to them because it gets me in the Christmas mood. And just thinking about all that being lost was really frustrating. Because most things, with something like that, you get a billing issue, they just they freeze up your account. You pay it, everything goes back to normal. So I was assuming that that was going to happen, but not what happened. But I had to send in a couple different messages, and they did restore everything. So I'm lucky. But at the same time, after that happened, I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, how come I've been bringing people to this website for over a decade, and they're just going to erase my history over a $15 payment being late? So I'm like, how can I monetize this? And started thinking about ways that I could do that. And I still want to try to figure out something like that. I figure I would do something where put my radio shows up for free, but certain mixes that I do, like my Christmas mix, my breaks mix, all 45 break mix, that my pretty popular on my Mixcloud. Maybe charge $1 a listen or something like that. Just some way to get something out of it, as opposed to continually giving to this website who's now charging me.
Yeah, there's a comment here from Andy Smith, and then I'll mention something. He says he has 25,000 followers on Mixcloud and sometimes has less than 5 people watching. It's next to useless, but at least paying meant he didn't lose his old uploads. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because obviously they've got everyone onto this platform, got everyone hosting their mixes and putting them up there, and then they've now suddenly said, right, you can only have 10. They should have at least said, okay, we're not going to delete your old ones, but if you want to add new ones, then you have to pay. They shouldn't just say, right, you've got to delete everything or possibly lose everything. It's
I like myself, I've been on there for over 12, 13 years, something like that.
Yeah. And it's a tricky one, because I mean, for me, from 45 Day started on Mixcloud in getting people to do their mixes and host them on Mixcloud, and then obviously I just curate them. And it's been fine. This year's the 4th year, but I'm now thinking that there will be people who don't do many mixes, or just do the odd mix here and there, who are not professional DJs or whatever, who now won't do a mix because they've got this limit of 10 mixes and they don't want to pay for a
Right.
pro service that they're not going to use a great deal. So I don't know. They might change it. I guess everything costs money. You know, there is that sort of element. And I suppose Mixcloud hosts a lot of data and a lot of music and is a platform. But maybe there was a slightly different way to do it.
Yeah, there's no advertising on Mixcloud. Do you think it'd be easy enough just to run a commercial? Or
Well, there is actually. Do you not get advertising? Yeah. So I've got a pro account, which means I can post unlimited, whatever.
Yeah.
But I still get advertising saying this is someone from Mixcloud, blah blah blah, and you have to listen to like a 30-second advert from Mixcloud basically before you listen to certain mixes. So I'm a pro account and I've still got to listen to adverts, which is quite annoying. But there is this. But then, you know, everything's advertising. I mean, even Twitch, you know, there is advertising at the beginning of streams, and some people have it in the middle of their streams. I've sort of switched that part off because it gets quite annoying, I think, for viewers to have an ad, certainly during a talk show, you know, an ad sort of halfway through. So there's only ads at the beginning. But I guess all these platforms are there. But Twitch doesn't, for example, charge you. It doesn't charge you for being on there. You can be on there for free, and the monetization is much easier. You know, you're not, you know, the big DJs are going to make a lot of money. Smaller streamers aren't going to make much money, but they might make something, you know, and, you know, the monetization is possible. Whereas Mixcloud hasn't got that bit right yet, which I think is the problem.
The thing with Twitch is you can't go back and listen to a past video.
That's the only problem. Yeah, that is the problem. Obviously the VODs, the videos on demand, you can't have them on there because a lot of them will have copyright issues. So you then have to take that somewhere else. So then the music goes on to that. But then the next stage is, and I'll talk to you about it later actually, but podcasting. There's a new platform opening for getting mixes onto podcasts because a lot of people know what podcasts are. Other people don't know what Twitch is. You know, if you say to someone I'm on Twitch, they don't know, but people know what a podcast is. So
yeah, true.
But yeah, I'll talk to you about that probably after the show. Yeah, have you got another bonus record for us?
Yeah, let's see.
We'll probably do one, and then we'll have a little chat about something, and then maybe one more bonus track.
All right.
After that, and then we'll find someone to raid.
I'm gonna play this record. It's just I don't know. I guess it's somewhat rare. It's always been a cool song. It's just one of those again early hip hop songs, not necessarily a rap song, but one of those early hip hop songs that I liked. And you know, I like to have those in the collection, so was able to finally find this one. I don't know how much of a hit this ever was, but it was on the first Tommy Boy Greatest Beats compilation.
Okay.
But cool little bass line. I always dug this. Yeah, you get the idea.
DJ Andy Smith is saying Salsa Smurf, wicked. And Kilo saying it's a Cat Stevens bass line.
Oh, yep. It's same bass line from what is the name of that song? Was Dog a Donut, I think is the name of it.
Yeah. Great record. Great. And a nice sort of chugging tempo to it as well. You know, it's not too,
kind of slow. 92. That is Special Request is the name of the group.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of 45s now and collecting them, you know, I'm assuming you're a bit of a mix of sort of record shops and sort of online.
Yeah, I do as much local stuff as I can. Now that I'm in Tucson, I haven't really found a place that's got like crazy 45s, but able to buy new stuff.
Okay.
Up in Phoenix, there's some good stores with a few more options. I've found some things up there, but there are records here, surprisingly.
Yeah.
antique stores and stuff like that. There's some good stashes of some pretty decent records. They're all kind of priced on the low end of the collector scale, but I'm still finding other stuff to add to my non 45 collection.
And in terms of the music you're buying, are you buying sort of new music that's produced now, or are you collecting older stuff, or both?
Well, since moving here, I haven't been collecting a whole lot just because still trying to find work.
Yeah.
I try to buy as much new stuff as I can just because I know that if I don't buy it now, I'm gonna have to pay a lot for it later on.
Yeah, that
So
the fear of
I try
missing
to
out, isn't it?
yeah, so I try to keep up with that. But when I have a full bank account and I'm able to do it, I'm watching Discogs constantly to see what pops up that's in my wants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Whether it's old funk records or disco, or if it's something rare that I just want. And then I also check out certain websites to make sure that I'm up on the new stuff. And I
yeah.
always check a few different genres because I like playing different kinds of music.
I was going to say,
So
so we spoke earlier about how when you were a child, you used to listen to the radio, and that used to be different music. Your DJ sets now, you say that you take a box out like that. So what sort of music would be in that sort of box if you were taking it out for a 3 to 4 hour set?
I mean, it really depends on the situation. But let's say if it was the gig I used to do weekly, it was just a restaurant setting, a place where people go after work and have drinks, different restaurant workers,
Yeah,
or just people that would sit there and talk for hours. But I would play anything that I thought, wouldn't just make the mood terrible.
yeah.
So I'm bringing out disco, whatever kind of cool 80s things that, whether people I think would like them or not. I'll bring a song they might know or a song they might not know. So yeah, I bring a little bit of everything if it's something like that. If that makes sense. If I'm having to
Yeah.
make people dance, then yeah, I'm
Oh, it
concentrating
gives
more
them
on
more freedom, doesn't it? If there's no dance floor and it's just sort of background, good vibes, you can get away with playing almost whatever you want.
right. And that one actually, I had set out to not repeat a song for a year at
Wow.
that gig, and I made
Okay.
it up until a month before the pandemic shut everything down. And
Wow.
I need to compile the playlist because I'm pretty sure I posted them every week, but I made it almost a year without repeating a record.
And how often was that gig? Was that weekly?
Except for Eddie Murphy, Boogie in Your Butt. I played that every week.
Okay. But was that a weekly gig or?
Yeah, it was a
a
weekly gig.
Yeah, yeah.
So 4
Wow.
hour set once a week.
That's a lot of
Um,
45s.
yeah, and I probably could have went a lot longer, but I was playing things that I wouldn't have normally played, but
Yeah,
things that I
yeah,
just
yeah.
have in the collection. Well, let me play this just so I can extend it and make sure I can make it to a year.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's a little bit like what we do on Twitch, it's we do play records sometimes more than once, obviously, but there is this whole thing of always trying to find something new to play on Twitch that people won't have heard before, especially on a 45. Oh, where's this come from, or what is that? So I guess it carries on, and you're constantly buying records when other records are sitting there. It's
Right,
just
right.
it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Okay, let's have one final bonus song, and then we'll find someone to sort of raid out to.
All right, hang on. All right, I'm gonna go with another hip hop record. Let's see. I first heard this song from the Grammys. Must have been 85 or 86.
Okay.
And the Beastie Boys came out to present.
Wow.
And it was, the Beastie Boys, all three of them, and then Hurricane. And Hurricane was
Okay.
he had a box.
Right.
And as soon as the house music stopped, you could hear what he was playing.
Hey, Chuck,
And
we
it was
got
this.
some non-believers out there.
Yo, we got to do something about that, man. Yo, we got to get stupid. Yo, we got to let them know what time it is.
You go through and I when I jump in my car. People treat me like a real ass dude. Just fall no matter who you are when I'm up the par. I bet you go hip hop or real raw. But the eyes and ooze is my kind of news. Pop your tape in, put the car in cruise. I never heard the blues. I never drank booze. Cause I just rock the rhythm, let alone the blues. The L.I. and Steve.
Yeah, I don't know if you can find it on YouTube or whatever, but if you see that clip, that's the song that's coming out of that box, and you hear just a few short seconds of it.
Yeah, we should definitely check it out. I don't think I can get it live on this at the moment, but that's cool. I'm going to say good day to Rolling Adam. He's got a question. Who's your favorite hip hop artist in 2023?
Who's my favorite hip hop artist in 2023? That's something
difficult
to
question, isn't it?
consider. I'm gonna go with Tyler the Creator.
Okay. Yeah.
I've recently, because you can play Serato, you can play Tidal through Serato.
Yeah.
I've recently been introducing myself to a lot more of albums and just going through songs to see what I liked from each group. And Tyler the Creator's got a ton of stuff that I really like. I know he's not necessarily the newest. He's been out for a while, but that's the first guy that can come to mind of the
Cool.
new school kind of rap guys.
Yeah, definitely. And probably the last question, it may be difficult to say, new school or old school hip hop, or is that a pretty obvious answer?
Oh man, just hip hop.
Yeah.
I can't.
Fair enough.
There's so much. Yeah, there's just so much. Every year, every era,
Yeah.
there's something.
Yeah. It just keeps coming, and it's amazing because I think there's some quotes, isn't it? They never thought hip hop would last, and then obviously here we are, sort of 50 years later.
Yeah, I mean, I've got different memories from all of it, and it all feels different, and it all feels good. So
yeah, definitely. Cool. I'm going to set a raid. We're going to go and raid one of the other DJs on Twitch at the moment. What have you got coming up? Have you got any gigs coming up? Have you got any sort of radio shows coming up at the moment?
In Tucson, I'm still developing my residencies down here, but I'm doing every Saturday night here in town, and then play out in Bisbee a couple times a month. I'll be up in Vegas the weekend of April 15th for the Sundowner Soul Club Soul Weekender.
Cool.
So I'm playing some 45s up there.
Who's organizing that one?
Paula Puente.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So sorry, it's another. I think I had someone on who's talking about Soul Weekend, but I think that's a different one.
Okay. Yeah, she was. At least she's the one that hit me up.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've got 3 mixes on my Mixcloud. There's Breaks 101, Breaks 201, Breaks 301. I'm soon going to do a Breaks 401. I plan to do that live on Twitch.
Cool.
If you don't know what those are, I'm playing 100 records in a half hour, and all I'm doing is playing the break and jumping from break to break to break.
That is awesome. And you're going to be doing that on Twitch, did you say?
I think I'm going to do it on Twitch.
Wow.
Usually when I do a mix live like that, I might screw up a couple times and just bring the record back and re-record it real quick live while I'm still going, and then just chop it out. So I'm going to have to figure out how to not let that happen while I'm live on Twitch. But
no pressure. But people,
right, exactly.
The thing about Twitch is it's everyone is so supportive and so positive that those sort of things don't matter.
Yeah.
It matters to you obviously because you're the DJ, you're the performer, but in the grand scheme of things, the Twitch community love everything that's going on, and they'd love that regardless of any sort of little slip up or anything. It's
and technically, I mean, I would be recording it to listen to, not so much for the visual aspect of it anyway.
I hadn't posted it because I didn't know what your Twitch channel is. Do you have a Twitch channel at the moment, or are you going to be launching it soon?
There's a Twitch channel there. Yeah, I could use some more followers for.
Okay, cool. Right,
it hasn't really been active as we've been discussing.
What's the link? What's the link then?
It's DJ King Otto. Yeah, pretty much anywhere I'm going to be DJ King Otto or just King Otto.
Post that in the link, and then we'll get some follows. We can also do a shout out actually. But yeah, cool. And obviously you've done a mix for 45 Day, the uplifting mix. I've just launched 45 Day 2023, so it might be a bit tight for you, but there's about a month, well, 44 days from today, if you fancy doing another mix for 45 Day.
Yeah, I'd be into that. Is it along the same theme?
It's anything. With this one, it's anything you want, as long as it's 45s, 45 minutes of 45s, any genre, any style, whatever you want.
I'm into it.
Cool. So there should be a shout out there, going from there. So yeah, if you're in the chat, hit that follow button, get King Otto some more followers. But yeah, it's been great. Let me just set this raid. And yeah, thank you so much. It's been amazing. It's been great having you on the show. I'm sure there's lots of areas we could have talked at in even more detail and gotten even more nerdy. But it's been a lot of fun having you on, and I've really appreciated it. And yeah, hopefully we'll get you some follows, and I hope that we can get you on Twitch soon. And then we'll get you on some raid events, and you know, do some stuff for 45
that'll
Day.
be awesome once I'm set up and here and ready to go.
Yeah, definitely cool. Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to go and raid DJ Christopher J. Otto, if you wanted to hang on there for a second after we finish, and take it easy, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.